will be recorded. All right, so it is recorded. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go through a couple different things first, and then we'll do a lot of demonstrations. And I'll show you my toolbox here, my travel case, and we'll do some hands-on stuff and some massage work there. So let's get to the presentation. Alrighty, so tonight will be all about the fascia, a little down low on the fascia. So a little bit about me for anyone who doesn't know, whether you're watching the recording or not. Carrie McGinn, I'm a physical therapist by trade. I have my Doctor of Physical Therapy degree from MGH Institute of Health Professions. I am also a yoga instructor. I have been teaching for, oh goodness, like 5-6 years, and I am finishing up my 500 hour this month. I'm also like to call myself a coach because I really help put all of my knowledge together to help people feel good physically, mentally, emotionally in their body from a really holistic approach. So a little bit of what to expect today. We're going to do a little bit of reflection on kind of how you feel right now, what feels good, what doesn't, and take a couple moments to tune into your body. And then we'll dive into the nitty-gritty of like, what is fascia? Why is it important? Some of the reasons we address it, and then we'll go into how to address it. There'll be plenty of demonstrations today, and a kind of a brief overview of a bunch of different tools I have, and then some ways that you can use your hands or tools to access these different areas of your body. So before we go anywhere else, let's take a moment to just close your eyes and check in. Before we go fully into our full body check-in, I invite you to just take a couple of deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. One more, in through the nose and out through the mouth. And as you sit here, as you start to just come into your body, I want to invite you to close your eyes and start to notice anything you smell around you. Maybe it's incense or a candle burning close by. Maybe it's someone lighting and making dinner for you, or maybe it's your own shampoo. Just noticing what smells are close, what smells are far away, what's strong. And what do these smells remind you of? Do they bring up any emotions, any feelings? Taking a moment to just kind of notice it all and be present in it all. And then bringing your awareness to what you taste. Maybe you just had dinner, maybe you had a sip of tea, maybe you brushed your teeth. What are subtle tastes? What's a really strong taste? Do any memories come to mind? Any feelings or emotions? And then what do you hear? Does my voice sound close or far? Are there background noises? Maybe puppies, family members? What sounds good to your ears? What do you remember? And then noticing what you feel. Where are your clothes touching your skin? Can you feel your hair against your neck? Is your skin cold or warm? If you're seated or standing, can you feel the ground beneath you? Do you feel supported, held? Take it all in. And then slowly opening your eyes and adjusting to the light around you. What colors are in front of you? What objects? What is close and what is far away? Maybe one of your favorite things is sitting right in front of you. Taking a couple more moments here just to take in all 5 senses and notice your body fully from a sensory experience. Breathing it in, smelling, tasting, seeing, feeling. Letting it create a really solid impression of where you are right here and right now. We'll take another deep breath in to fill all the way up. And exhale to let it go. And as you sit here kind of in this experience of being present in your body, I invite you to start to think about some of these questions, and they will be in the recording, but you're also welcome to take a picture of this slide if you'd like. And if you want to write something down now, you can, but you can also just notice and think. What came up when you focused on your five senses? What did your body kind of say to you? What did your breath say to you? How does your body truly feel right now? And what were your first thoughts upon finishing this meditation? Some other things that can be really helpful to think about as we start to create this relationship of listening to our body is, what are 3 things that make you feel really good? What helps you feel connected to your mind and body? What lights you up and inspires you? What are things that you find fun? What are things that you're grateful for? All these questions are just to give you a deeper dive into how you feel and what fuels you. When we start to talk about fascia in just a moment, fascia is how it helps us experience the world around us. So for me, whenever I am working with people and their fascia system and helping them address these issues, I want them to know where they are now before we make any changes. I want them to start to notice what feels good and what doesn't. I want them to know what their baseline is at this moment. And then we can start to create tools, or what I like to call as a self-care master list, to help them feel as good as possible in their bodies. So just some things to reflect on. So getting into the nitty gritty of what is fascia. So fascia is a connective tissue that surrounds every organ, blood vessel, bone, nerve fiber, and muscle in your body. It has nerves that make it almost as sensitive as the skin. So a lot of times our pain and discomfort is actually coming from our fascia system and not always a muscle or a ligament. It is a soft tissue component, so it's not like bone, it's not hard, and it's considered connective tissue because it permeates the whole body and forms a continuous 3-dimensional matrix of support. So the most important thing about fascia is not only does it help us sense the world around us, but it also supports our entire body. And we won't dive too much into it tonight because it could be a whole nother topic. But there's this concept called fascial tensegrity. I think by Philip Beach, if I'm correct. I might mess that one up. But fascial tensegrity is this theory that we can tap into our fascial system to create more strength just by alignment and connection of the fascia. Because our fascia connects through our whole body, it helps transmit force in our body and therefore helps us connect deeper to muscles. So we'll talk about in a couple of moments when you are connecting into the fascia and the fascial tensegrity of your feet, you can actually connect deeper into your core and create more stability in your entire body. So that's really that deep fascial level. And there's also a superficial fascial level. That sounds like a mouthful sometimes. But the kind of important takeaway here is that fascia is throughout our entire body and it helps us transmit force. It helps us experience the world around us and connects us deeply to ourselves. So some common terminology in the fascial world is self-massage and self-myofascial release. Usually self-massage is when people talk about using their own hands to manipulate their muscles. It involves kind of kneading skin, applying pressure, and you can also use other body parts to massage your muscles, such as your shins to massage your calves, your elbows to kind of dig into your quads, things like that. Self-myofascial release is kind of a hot word, if you will, in the wellness world. And the term release can be a little bit misleading. You're not necessarily releasing anything, you're massaging things. So it's using things like rubber balls and maybe even foam rollers to restore the sliding surfaces among the interface of muscle and fascia. So if your muscle kind of lays over here, your fascia is on top of it, you want it to be able to glide and slide, because if it can glide and slide, then we won't get as much shear. If you think about, I'm trying to think of a great example of something shearing. But even if you think about a traditional massage, when someone's being massaged, they often use kind of massage oil or cream so that your hands can glide on the skin. If it wasn't, it would create a lot of friction. So if our muscle and our fascia are kind of connected to each other, it can create a lot of friction and there's not a lot of great sliding and gliding within those layers. It's using other objects such as rollers, even cups can address the fascia to move deeper into tissues and move through different adhesions and trigger points. So, why is it so important to address the fascia? So, addressing issues in the fascial system can reduce pain, increase range of motion, and help nourish muscles and nerves. So, the reducing pain part I want to touch on first. Well, sometimes our pain is not necessarily coming from muscles or joints or ligaments. A lot of the kind of traditional medicine it relies on imaging. And don't get me wrong, it is great to go get an x-ray or an MRI when you've had an injury, especially when you've taken an acute fall. But a lot of us deal with more chronic injuries. And when it comes to more chronic injuries, you can live with arthritis or degenerative disc disease or minor tears, and they might not necessarily cause you pain. Frequently, what causes you pain is the fascia and even the muscles surrounding that joint or ligament that have adapted in a kind of, what's the right word here? Adapted in a not ideal way to the strains being put on the body. So, a lot of times the pain can actually be coming from the fascia and the muscles. So, when I work with people, I always make sure that not only, yes, I take into consideration any imaging, but I also try to take inventory of the fascial layers and what's going on there when we're addressing pain. Another reason there can be pain in the fascial system is there are nerves responsible for proprioception embedded in the fascia, and these are sensory nerves. Sensory nerves are what we feel. And proprioception is this knowing of where your body is in space. So if you closed your eyes and your hands were on your thighs, and then you lifted your arm out to the side, the proprioceptive kind of nerve endings are telling you that your arm is lifted out to the side. So the collagen fibers of fascia are also bathed in fluid, which is mostly lymph, which is really important when it comes to moving our body and detoxing our body's natural detoxification system. Our fascial system literally connects ourselves to ourselves, connects each and every part of ourselves together. And it plays a big role in helping the body just sense where you are. So it's when you're walking, you don't need to look at your foot on the ground. You know your foot is on the ground. And last but not least, it has not only just proprioceptive nerves, but a ton of sensory nerve endings that are in constant communication with the brain and the body. So, some of the reasons we address the fascial system. I'm going to get into all the kind of lecture and slide stuff first, and then we'll spend plenty of time kind of rolling around. So, by addressing the fascial system, whether that be through self massage, by rolling out, even by those massage guns, you can ease aches and pains due to overuse, underuse, or misuse, and relieve discomfort in common areas. You can also improve range of motion. So, a lot of times, our range of motion is just kind of where your body is in how much you can take a joint through its full kind of space. So, if you lift your shoulder up, you should have what's called 180 degrees of range of motion. A lot of times when we're limited in range of motion, it can be because of the muscle pliability and fascial glide is kind of tense. Picture like a rubber band that can't stretch anymore. Sometimes the fascia and the muscle can get like that. It can also improve muscle function. Addressing the fascial system can improve muscle function and output, which will improve our range of motion. Can also reduce overall tension in our body, whether it be muscle tension, neural tension, or even muscle strengths. Another really amazing reason I love the rolling out balls is it reduces stress. Can ease stress and anxiety by rolling out with balls. And this is because it taps into the relaxation response and brings body into the rest and digest mode, recover mode of the parasympathetic nervous system. And most of us these days could benefit from diving into rest and digest mode a little bit more. All right, some other great benefits of working on the fascial system is it enhances breathing function. It can improve the pliability in muscles of respiration, such as the diaphragm and rib cage. And by creating more pliability in these muscles, you can improve the performance of these muscles. It also increases mobility. So when the body hurts, it's kind of a nasty circle, if you will. When the body hurts, you don't want to move. When you don't move, circulation decreases. When circulation decreases, muscles and joints and fascia stiffen. So when those stiffen, then the body hurts. And it's this really kind of not as great kind of circle, if you will. So by using the balls, you can not only improve mobility, but you're increasing blood flow and circulation by sliding and gliding the tissues together. So you can decrease pain and you can keep yourself as mobile as possible. Can also improve posture and performance. Poor posture can be due to habits and create tension in certain muscles, fascia, and ligaments, so they start to adapt. So think about, you might not always feel like you've had tightness in your kind of chest or something like that, but say you spend a lot of time at your computer lately, myself calling myself out there, and you might feel like you're a little bit tighter in the front of your chest. That's because the muscles start to adapt to being in a position for a long period of time. And honestly, that's why one of my biggest pieces of advice for people who work from home is to move constantly or move as much as possible, change positions. And then if you feel like you're kind of been stuck in a certain posture, you can use different balls and self-massage techniques to decrease that adaptation. Last but not least, it can increase your energy level. Improving motion in the tissues improves blood flows, which encourages you to move and increases energy. All sorts of good stuff. So what are some tools that you can use? There's some pictures here, and I'm going to pop off the screen in a moment and show you some of my tools that I have. But honestly, I like to start people with their hands and their fingers. You can use other body parts. You can use foam rollers, stick rollers, tennis balls, yoga tune-up balls. My favorite are yoga tune-up balls and Franklin balls, and then some spiky balls that I actually stock at my office and have that you can find on Amazon. I do not recommend PVC pipes, lacrosse balls, and I'm hesitant to recommend tennis balls sometimes. Softer tennis balls are better. Excuse me. To sneeze.
Bless you.
Thank you. And that should say actually golf balls. Tennis balls are okay because they can be a little softer, but I don't recommend PVC pipes. That was like a hot thing for a second using PVC pipes. Lacrosse balls can be okay on certain muscles, but not great on other muscles. And same with tennis balls. There's some areas I wouldn't use tennis balls for, but overall they can be helpful to use. So before we dive into this, let's go over all the tools that I have here. I don't know what this is. Okay. I am somehow locked into this PowerPoint. There we go. My computer, I think, has created a new system for me to work off of. So, a lot of tools that I have here. So, some of my favorites, I will start with the yoga tune-up balls because they are my favorites and I tend to just stock them in my office. My absolute favorite are the alpha balls here, which have they're kind of like a bigger size. They're great for like your glutes. They're great for your upper back. I probably travel with this the most, even though they're a little bulkier. I find that for my personal body, I am larger in the sense that I'm like 5'9" and I have some muscle on me. So these I find get into more muscles for me. I like to use it, and we will do a couple of things low back and glutes with a ball like this. You can also use, this is kind of the next size down for yoga tune-up. I'm going to forget the name of it right now. It's not the OG. The OGs are the smaller one that I don't have here. So these are kind of bigger, and then these are smaller. So sometimes it can be helpful to get into smaller areas with smaller balls because it will be a little bit less intense. There is an even smaller version, and I just realized I don't have it here. My other really favorite one that I've been using lately, they're called Franklin balls from the Franklin method, but they're these like kind of squishy orange ones, and they're a little they still have good like kind of feedback to them. They're a little squishier. So I've been finding them really helpful to get into more tender areas like my hip, the front of my hip flexors, and even sometimes like my hamstring and the bottom of my glutes. Or if I'm like really, really tender, and usually these balls don't feel like too much for me. But if it's ever like, say I just did a really hard workout, or I actually went skiing this weekend and my calves were like really tender, this is a little bit squishier. So it's a little less intense, which can sometimes be nice. My other really favorite thing, and I'll have to blow it up here. It's also good for breath work, is the Courageous ball from Yoga Tune-Up. It's like very pliable. It has a lot of, I just put a very funny video up on Instagram about this the other day when I accidentally knocked my whole phone off the stand, throwing this ball at my phone. But it's really pliable and it's similar to the Franklin ball. It's squishier, so you can get into some softer areas. So we will do this a neck massage technique with this today. I like to use it on kind of the front of my hips, whether I'm having menstrual cramps or hip flexor tightness. Will use it on the front of my hips. It's also really great for digestive stuff. I've struggled with digestive issues and a lot of constipation, and this gentle rolling of kind of my stomach area can really help. And it wouldn't be good to do really hard there. Your organs need kind of soft stuff on them. And in general, like really tender or really tense stuff can use softer materials. This is also really great for kind of diaphragm work and rib cage work. So we're definitely going to go through neck and rib cage today, probably calves. We're going to try to hit a little bit of everything. So everyone's blissed out and rolled out. And then another new thing that I've been really loving lately after learning more about this from one of my mentors are spiky balls. I like to use these for hands and feet and places of high pain. And the reason that is a lot of times when we've been in a lot of pain and we've had chronic pain is our body is kind of stuck in this chronic pain cycle. So sometimes we need to reset that cycle with different sensation. So that's why sometimes if you ever had like tension in your neck and you just ask like your partner to like, can you just touch my neck? It will feel so much better. Having like a pleasurable touching sensation in a painful area can sometimes help reset that pain cycle. Depending on the injury, that doesn't always work, but it is something to kind of try. So I love this for that, like really gently, like rolling a different tactile sensation and an interesting sensation. You don't want it to be painful. But I also really love spiky balls for feet. I've been having a huge kick on feet lately because they're so important to our overall health and for our stability and connecting into our core. So using a spiky ball on the bottom of your feet can really help improve sensory awareness in your feet and help you actually root down deeper, ground better, and just overall connect better into your fascial layer. Also really helpful if you've been typing a lot to like use it in your hands. This one is like really hard, can't squish it, where this one's a little squishier. So I like the squishy one because I can kind of like squeeze it a little bit. This one I like for my feet, but I really just gently kind of roll over it. I'm not putting any weight on it. And then what else do I have? Foam rollers are great. Stick rollers are great. I have all those. I have all those as well. And then sometimes people will use, I have a little mini version of this, kind of these like massage guns. These massage guns can be helpful for getting into the fascial layer. I do think they get a little bit like overused as more of a like a rescue type of thing instead of addressing the actual problem. But if you're sore after like a workout, or if you just feel like you need a little bit of hands-on work and you don't want to use your own hands, they can be really helpful. And I like this kind of rounded surface better because it also has a nice texture. And I think that is it for tools. I could like go on for tools all day. So what I want to do here is we're going to go through a couple of rollouts. I'm actually going to take my little shirt off and tie my hair up because we're going to do a couple of neck and kind of upper back related stuff first, and then we'll kind of work our way down the chain. And I will do my best to demo all of these for you. So that you can see them. So good. So let's see. If you have a courageous ball at home, you're going to keep this nearby because we're going to start there. First, we're going to start with our hands, and then I'll give an option to use this. And actually, as silly as it sounds, if you have earrings in, like long ones, I recommend taking them out just to be safe. So before we do anything with fascial work, I always like to do a pre-rollout check-in and a post-rollout check-in because it can be really helpful to just notice where our body's at before we get started. So you're just going to close your eyes and take your hands somewhere on your body, maybe your thighs, your heart, your belly. And just for now, we're going to notice any tension or not in the neck and the shoulders. How does the front of the neck feel? How's the tops of the shoulders feel? Do you feel like your head's pushed forward or pulled back? Does your head feel heavy? Take a deep breath in and a long breath out. I'm going to have you take your left ear to your left shoulder, just as much as feels comfortable without forcing it. Notice how the side of your neck feels, the front, right versus left. And then coming back through center, take your right ear to your right shoulder. Notice any differences here side to side. And then you're going to come on back through center. And this time you're just going to turn over your left shoulder like you're trying to look behind you. Notice how it feels and breathe. Then you're going to come on back through center and turn to look over your right shoulder. Come on back through center. This time you're going to look down to the ground. And all of this is just noticing. You don't need to force. Last but not least, you're going to look up to the sky. Alrighty, come on back through center. Kind of just taking a mental inventory of how that all feels. And we're going to start with our hands with a little self-massage on Herb's Point here. Bonus with Herb's Point is that it also feeds back to our vagus nerve, which is really helpful for regulating our nervous system and nourishing our nervous system. So there's this muscle here, kind of you can see it popping out a little bit, called the Sternocleidomastoid. It goes from the ear down to here, and it's kind of this thick muscle here. You're gonna find that muscle and get to like the midway point, like about here. I'm gonna turn to the side. I'm going to try to turn to the side and also look at you, which is happy. So you're going to put your hands really gently on this area, and you're going to do what's called a Neurofacial Technique at first. You're going to go forward versus back, and you're not digging into the neck. You're laying your hands over the neck and gently gliding. You're going to go back and forth. Notice where there's more motion. So I have more motion going back. Then I'm going to go up versus down, and sometimes it's helpful to use the opposite hand. Up versus down. I have more motion up. So then what I'm going to do is go back and up and just get a really gentle fascial stretch here. And I might even turn my head in the opposite direction as I stretch. And then same thing, up and down. If you feel like your fingers are slipping, you can kind of just let them slip. You might even come back to that same spot and do a couple of really gentle circles along this SCM here. Sternocleidomastoid. I also sometimes will like to, and it's going to be a little weird, is kind of like gently gather the skin. My fingers kind of peel it towards the heel of my hand. It's called skin rolling. So I don't know if you can kind of see this. It's a tougher technique, but kind of just rolling the skin like that can feel really nice. And it's not like you're not pinching. You're just gently kind of rolling the skin against the heel of your hand. And you go where it feels comfortable, where it feels good, and avoid the areas that don't feel good is really what it comes down to. Alrighty, let's go to the other side. We're going to take the other hand here, same place, midway through. You're going to go back versus forward, up versus down. So for me, I'm going to go back. Sometimes you need to recheck, and most of those are even, so I'm just going to go back. Get a really gentle stretch back. And it might even be like you need to kind of roll it here, like so. And then you can do that skin rolling again, kind of like, this might be easier to see, kind of peeling here. The skin rolling's a hard one to show at the right angle. And you can kind of go all the way up with, especially the skin rolling up to kind of like the base of that SCM. Then you might even make little circles along it. Sometimes I like to do like a little gentle stroking. Once again, all of this is gentle. You don't need to be beating yourself up. It's just starting to give your muscles some feedback. So then, if you have a courageous ball, or you can use kind of a deflated playground ball, I invite you to take this and you're going to place it to the bottom of your left ear as you turn your face to the right. So my head's turned to the right, the ball is on the bottom of my left ear. I am going to take an inhale. As I exhale, I'm going to turn my head to the left, twist the ball as I glide it across my neck. So again, head's turned to the right, balls at the left. I'm taking an inhale, exhale, through center, inhale, exhale. Couple more, inhale, exhale. Do a couple more, 2 more on the side. And there might be an area where you feel like you have a little bit kind of more tension, and you can always just stay there and do a little bit of twisting with the ball. All right, we'll go to the other side. Take it to the side of your right ear. Head turns to the left. Take an inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. So it should feel like you're kind of like almost getting stuck on your skin and you're gliding it. And you want to get that little bit of traction with the skin because that's going to help the fascia glide. The movement adds just another really great layer there. Awesome. We'll do one more. Beautiful. We can put the courageous ball to the side. We're going to do a little check-in here and then do one more thing for the upper traps before we move on. So you can keep going with that if you want, but if you want to do a little brief check-in, we can just go back to those motions. Side to side, over one shoulder, and then the other, down and up. And just notice. Another really great thing about this area of our neck is there's a lot of lymphatic vessels here. So being really gentle on this area is really important, whether that be with the hands or the balls. By using gentle self-massage techniques, you're going to be nourishing the lymphatic system as well as the fascial system. If you go too hard in these areas, it's not going to be great for the lymphatic system. So just something to keep in mind. All right. Before we finish up with kind of this area of the body, we're going to do one for these upper traps. That's my absolute favorite. I'm going to do my best to show you on the corner of the wall right here, but I might need to readjust my screen. So you want to take either a tennis ball or like the alpha ball or one of the other yoga tuna balls and take one out of the kind of container, if you will. So this technique specifically is really great to do on the edge of a wall. So you kind of can't really see it here, but this is a corner of a wall. So what you want to do, and I'm just going to readjust slightly, is you're going to take the ball and you're going to put it right, I'm going to turn this a little bit so you can see me better. You're going to put it right in this kind of pocket where the upper trap is, kind of where your neck meets your shoulder. And you're going to disappear behind my head in a moment. But I have this on my left shoulder, or my left upper trap. My right foot is going to be forward, and I'm going to hinge at the hips and lean forward. So the ball is between my trap and the wall. And then from here, you can roll kind of up and down with your body. You can move your arm around. You can take it behind you. You can even shrug the shoulders up and down. This is really great because my head has a space to go. So I'll try to show you from this side as well. So the ball's going to go here. My right shoulder, my left foot is forward, and I'm hinging here, and the ball is here between my shoulder and the wall. Up and down, moving the arm around, forward and back, shrug and relax, take it back here. You can kind of really see that as well. We'll go back to this side. So really just exploring these different spaces of the upper trap and spending as much time as you'd like here can be really nice. It's a little weird because you're like in the corner of a wall bent over, but it's really the best way to get into the upper trap area. If there's a spot that's really tender, sometimes I'll just kind of lean into the wall and close my eyes and breathe. And then I'll start to roll again. If you're working on one side, I invite you to switch to the other side. So just so I'm going to come up close so you can kind of see if you're working on it on your own, feel free to. But the area we're really getting into is this meaty portion here. So this is a bone. This is another bone. This is kind of where my neck starts. You're getting in like right here. So if I was kind of like, if against the wall here, the wall would be right here. So it's those kind of hard, a lot of people, it's like, why is that muscle so hard? That's what you're working with there. Another way, if it was really intense on the wall that you can do that, it requires a little finagling, but you can actually lay on your back with a yoga block. I'm going to do it in seated so you can see better, but the yoga block will go here. The ball would go here. The yoga block would go here against like the wall behind you, and you'd be laying on your back like that. So I'll show you with my bookshelf here, but it's a little bit harder to kind of see. So I'm laying down here, putting the ball here, and my head on the side of the yoga block, and you can't really see. We're going to be a little creative here. You're going to come on a tour with me. And I apologize for kind of the shaky camera shift for a moment. So I'd be like this, and then I'd use my feet to press the ball into the yoga block, into the wall. I hope that makes sense. And then you can move your arm, shrug it, or press with your feet. So one thing that you can do here is have your knees bent, feet flat, and press your feet into the ground, almost like a bridge pose as you press back into the ball. Then you can kind of explore a little bit closer to the neck. So that is, sorry if I made anyone dizzy with that little camera maneuver. I gotta get my laptop on like a swiveling tripod. So that is how you get into the upper traps. I personally like the wall best because it's just more accessible, but the yoga block is great if the wall was a little too intense. So one more time, I just want to take a little check-in. We'll go side to side. Look over one shoulder and then the other. Go up and down. So good. And you might notice some really big changes, you might not. The key here really is starting to give your body the love it needs and noticing what comes up, noticing what feels good and what doesn't, and really fueling what feels good. Alrighty, we're gonna go into the actual feet next because the feet and the calves, because there are two places I really want to hit, and then we might save some room for the other parts of our body. So if you have a smaller ball, we're going to grab that. And I'm going to take you on a little tilt here, and you can come to standing. And you're going to hold on to something while you do this and put the ball on the floor. And first what you're just going to do before we do anything is just stand with your feet hips width distance apart and notice how your feet feel on the ground. Is there any tension in your feet? Where is your weight sitting? What feels good? What doesn't? And then you're going to hold on to something and take the ball under your right foot. You're going to roll forward and back. You can start off slow, just starting to explore, and then you might go fast to kind of get into just some movement in the foot. And I like to think of the first couple of moments here as just an exploration of how the feet feel. I like to go on the inside edge. I'm going to turn this way so you guys can see me better. Inside edge, bottom, outside edge. I just really explore everything. And if there's spots I need to slow down on, I slow down. After about 30 seconds or so of this, and you can always do longer, you're going to take the ball and step on it. When you step on it, then you're going to twist, and then you'll move it down. Roll down kind of like an inch, step on the ball, and twist. And you make your way all the way up the foot. Step and twist. Being mindful of your knees and holding on for balance. You're going to get to the ball of the foot, step, and squish it. When you get all the way up to the toes, and I was born without like full toes, so it's gonna look a little different for you. You're going to wrap all 5 toes around the ball and really put all your weight into it and then relax. Spread the toes wide and then wrap the toes around the ball and relax. Do that one more time, wrapping the toes around the ball and then relaxing. Then from here, what I like to do is keep my heel on the floor and windshield wiper the foot side to side. You can take this windshield wiper kind of all the way up until you feel like your heel is going to come up off the ball. I love the windshield wiper in particular. And then what I'll do is kind of do a little bit more deep kind of kneading, almost like you're kneading bread with your feet or like, I don't know, squishing grapes. Kind of some deeper kneading into, especially the arch of my foot. I have really high arches, so I find that really helpful. And then I'll go right back, forward and back, kind of like a flushing out, inside, outside. So good. We'll take another deep breath here. And then we're just going to put this foot flat on the floor next to the other foot. I want you to close your eyes for a moment. Feet can be hips width distance apart. And notice, does one foot feel different than the other? Do you notice kind of more weight on one foot? Maybe one foot feels bigger or lighter or more grounded. Just noticing. And then we'll do the other side. We'll go through the side a little bit, the same amount, but we're going to go start with forward and back. Forward and back. You might go slow at first. You might go fast. Just kind of exploring the bottom of this foot. I'm going to roll these up because we're going to get to the calves next. Inside, outside, all the way around. Then you're going to take your heel and squish the ball and take a couple of twists. Move up an inch, squish the ball, and twist. Keep going all the way up. And if there's an area that's a little bit more tender, you might spend a little bit more time there. Or you may need to go a little gentler. You go all the way up, squishing and twisting, squishing and twisting. And then eventually you'll get to the toes. And the ball might roll away, that's fine. You're going to grip and press and then relax. Grip and relax. Grip and relax. And then you'll take some windshield wiper side to side. I like to make my way all the way up. So good. Oh, and there's a spot here that feels really good. So I'm going to stay in that spot for an extra second. And then you can go up, forward and back, inside, outside. Continue to explore here. Squish, squish, squish. And then you can just kick the ball off to the side and pause for a second. Closing the eyes and noticing how the feet feel. Maybe you feel more grounded, more connected. You might even try like a calf raise or two just to kind of notice. You might even walk a little bit. Feeling out here. So good. So since we're down on the feet, we're actually going to stay here and do a little calf work. So if you have a blanket, I recommend grabbing it and or a yoga mat or something like that. Something that you can just like pad the knees because we are going to be hands and knees. I'm going to move this back just a little bit more. So good. So first I'm going to show you a technique for the calves where you don't need to use a ball at all. So what I first want you to do is put your knees on kind of a rolled up yoga blanket or a towel and just see if you can sit back and notice how the calves feel. This is a nice check-in. You can also check in by doing a downward dog and bending one knee and then the other. That's totally up to you, but just checking in some place, whether it's here or in this hero's pose, maybe even a little bit of both. Then what you're going to do two options. We'll do the one, sorry, with the leg first, your own leg first. You're gonna come to hands and knees. You're gonna take your right shin and cross it over your left calf, and then you're just gonna rock back and forth along the calf, and you move the shin up and down the calf. And the more weight you sit back, the more intense it is. If you have really tight hips or quads, this might not be as accessible. So hang tight, and I'll show you another one in a second. So this is a great way to do calves if you don't have any tools with you. You can use like the whole shin for more intensity. You can use the bottom or the foot. You can even just kind of like do a little like so. But that's not always accessible for everyone. So this is going to be a little bit more intense, but I think it will feel really good. You're going to take two balls. I actually sometimes like these softer balls if it's feeling really intense. But what you're going to do is roll up the pants so you can get on your skin. And you're going to place the ball under your calf. And I like to do both at the same time. And then you get to put your hands here. You just modulate how much pressure goes back. Once you have enough pressure, then you can wiggle side to side. So the more weight you put back, the more intense it's going to be. So for me, I don't need to put a ton right now. I'm just going to go side to side. It's pretty intense for me. Then as you go, you can roll down just another inch and do the same thing. I find this middle, I can put a little bit more weight on. You can also just sit and hold if you want to just breathe. I like to kind of actually support my head here. And then you go all the way down. Just keep rolling it down. Bonus here is you get into the hamstrings, the backs of your thighs a little bit as well. All the way down. Alrighty. Can spend as much time as you'd like here, but for the sake of time, we're going to move on just so that I can show you one more technique for the hips. So before we do that, we're going to just check in, sitting back on the heels like this, or maybe coming back to your downward dog. Noticing if there's any difference from side to side. Alrighty. So far so good. Oh, beautiful. All right, we're gonna do one more technique. So for this one, actually, if you're on your yoga mat, we're just gonna come into a child's pose. And we're gonna do a couple of different techniques for the hips, for the front of the hips. We're gonna start with easiest to kind of most intense. So for child's pose, just to kind of get a sense of the front, we're gonna do the front of the hips. Where your toes touch knees wide and reach your arms long, and just notice how the front side of both hips feel. Is there any kind of crunching or discomfort? Is it tense? Do you feel like you need more support? We'll take 2 deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. One more in and out. So good. Alrighty, then what you're gonna do, if you have the courageous ball, we're gonna use that, but you can also use a rolled up towel. So if you're, I'll show the towel first. So this is I just unrolled my very nicely rolled blanket. So for the blanket or towel, you can kind of make a little like sausage roll and lay kind of your hip points, these hard points of your hips here. You can lay over that like so. But if you have the courageous ball, you can take this. And I like to start, think about like my uterus, almost start over my uterus. But what you do with either is you just start to roll side to side over the front of your hips. So for some people, it might be nice just to cradle your head and propel yourself with your hips. I'm just kind of like shaking my hips side to side. For other people, you might want to be on your arms and use your arms to help. You just kind of start to notice what feels good here. and notice some of the areas that might be holding on to a little extra tension. And the first couple moments, just like the feet, are just an exploration. You can, especially with the courageous ball, go up into the kind of pelvis a little bit and the low belly without worrying about doing any damage. And then when you get to one side, you're going to kind of center the ball. So this is kind of my hip point here. I'm going to take the ball right here, so I'm a little lopsided, and roll directly kind of over that hip point. And then I'll just wiggle a little bit side to side, maybe even up and down. I also really like to kind of lift the ball's under my right leg, so I take a little lift to the right leg, or even draw the right leg out into like a half frog pose. It's really all about exploration. I'll even bend the knee and windshield wiper it side to side. And I should have mentioned this a while ago, and I might have, but if you're ever rolling and you cannot breathe, you're holding your breath, you are doing too much. Ease up. So keep breathing here, wiggling around the front of the hip. You can even go down into the thigh a little bit. Be careful. These courageous balls especially will eat your clothes a little bit. So it is a little bit easier skin to skin, although this area is hard to demonstrate hit skin to skin. So good. And when you're done with the courageous ball on this side, just go to the other side. Up and down, side to side, a little sassy wiggle. An exploration of the front of the hips. You might notice a lot more tension on one side versus the other. Alrighty. I'm going to have you keep going with the courageous ball and just show you something else with the alpha tune-up and the Franklin balls. Not everyone has at home, but I want to show you. I also really like the Franklin ball right on the inside here to get into my kind of psoas. I kind of held a lot of tension here. So this is my belly button. This is my hip points are right here. So what I'll do, and this is, like I said, really squishy, is I will take the ball kind of right there where I hold tension and kind of pin it here. And then, let me move a little bit. Pin it here. And then really it's a little bit more targeted into that area. You can't even see it as much. See the ball under there. And you can kind of ride, it feels like kind of like the edge of the pelvic bowl. You can see as like I'm wiggling as I go down, and then I wiggle as I come up. And this is another place where I really like to lift the leg, or even put the toes and lift the thigh, and just get onto that inner edge of the pelvis. So it's very similar to what we were just doing, but because the ball is smaller, you can get a little bit more deeply into kind of this inner edge of the pelvis here. Sometimes I'll have people do it with the alpha ball, but when you're doing it with the alpha ball, you don't want to go up into the belly or down too low. You really want to stay kind of like right here and down into the quad. So I like the courageous ball best because it's just a better way to access the front of the hip. I'll have you spend one more minute here, and then we'll do one last check-in in child's pose. So good. Making sure you even out both sides. And then when you're ready, toes will touch, knees wide, arms reach long, take a child's pose. We'll take 3 breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. One more in and out. When you're ready, come up to a comfortable seat. And we're just going to take a moment in seated here to just take a full kind of body scan, and then I will open up for any questions. So finding a comfortable seat. Hands can be by your side. Eyes can begin to close. And just taking one last moment here to notice how you feel. We did a couple of different techniques kind of all over the place. And so just check in. How does your breath feel? How does your body feel? Notice where your skin touches, your clothes touch your skin, where your breath feels your body. Maybe there's areas of humming and energy or areas of grounding. We did a couple areas today that also work on the lymphatic system. So you might feel like you really did a little bit of a work there for your body. Taking your hands over your heart, taking one more deep breath in, an open mouth. So good. Alrighty. I'm going to stop the recording here.